So the last time we saw superdub, we got it back together and got it started, but then it just died and it wouldn't start again. So in this episode of Nugget Project, we're going to figure out why it died, hopefully start it again, and hopefully fix a few of the problems with it. Hello friends and welcome back. Well, what a year. I planned to have this thing running and on the road. The best laid plans, huh? So in the last episode you saw this. I basically got the engine back together, got it back in the car, got everything hooked back up, and I was gonna do a nice good video on that. And then, yeah, we were basically gonna start it up and hopefully take it for a drive up the street and show you it running. And then, the timing belt snapped on that thing. So if you didn't watch that video, the timing belt snapped when I was on the way to a job, and it made a right mess. It wrapped around the bottom, wrapped around the crank pulley, it bent 9 valves, and I didn't do a video on putting it back together, but that car is now back together and running. Not as well as I'd like, and we've got some timing issues. It runs fine down low, but it won't rev really over 4.5 grand, so we think it's the solenoid actuators for the variable valve timing system, so I'm sorting that out. Also, the power steering pump is leaking like a sieve, Subaru things. I've got one of them on order, picking it up next week. And the induction pipe split and everything. It's my last Subaru. I love it. I love driving it. It's such a good car, but I hate working on it and I'm sick of it breaking. So anyway, that's that. So unfortunately, most of my year after my big start of the year for work was spent fixing this stupid thing. Also, if we go back in the other shed where we usually work on the car, I saw her. I don't go out here, it's just started to rain, but anyway. This thing is a beautiful car and I love it and I've missed driving it. Unfortunately, I had a brake issue where I'd put my foot on the brake and it would bite, but then the pedal would go all the way down to the ground. Not great. So I rebuilt the master cylinder because that is basically the symptom of a faulty master cylinder. You know, it's basically the fluid is pushing past the seals on a master cylinder. So I rebuilt it and it still did it. And I'm like, huh. Spoke to a few of the gurus and they said, yeah, it's probably your ABS module. So let me go and find that. Excuse the dodgy camera work. Where'd I put it? Here. So this guy, this is an ABS module from the Sora, and basically because it was faulty, we had fluid pushing past the seals. I don't actually know how this works in here. It's witchcraft, but I'm sure a lot of you gurus and boffins do. But anyway, there's only apparently one dude in Australia who knows how to rebuild these, and he's busy. And he charges a lot. So I found a second-hand one of those from a Supra, which is exactly the same, because a lot of that car is based on the Supra. It has the same control component, same brakes, same diff, same everything, you know, same gearbox, the R154. So yeah, I found one from a Rex Supra for $200. Put that in, reblade all 4 corners, and the brakes are schmick. So I'm stoked, because I miss driving that car. It is so beautiful. Factory manual, VVTi, 1JZ. All the good turbo noises, I love it. So, just got a couple of little issues to fix on that car. It's 27 years old, whatever, it's gonna happen. But I've got that car back on the road, which means we can now take that car back out, put it back in here, and we start knuckling down on this guy, because I wanna get this fixed. So where are we at? Okay, so in the last episode when you saw this, I got it back together in a rush, because obviously I had to get the Liberty back in the shed and get that fixed. It's my daily. So my old man helped me get this car back together. Now, what I didn't show you on the video is we had a lot of problems with like the clutch and all sorts of stuff. So basically the clutch, we tried to bleed the clutch and it was just not pumping fluid. So I did have a rebuild kit for the clutch for the other MR2. And so I reluctantly used that, pulled it all apart, redid it, and it was just like, it was like sludge in there. You can't believe how bad it was. So full rebuild on that and then pumped through just junk through the slave and got it nice and clean. And the clutch now works. I had to adjust up the pedal a bit, but now the clutch feels good, and which was, I think, 99% the problem of our clutching issue. When we started up, the other issue we had is there was a bunch of lights. It had a check engine light, it had the catalytic converter light, I'm not too sure what that's about, we'll get to that. But it had the charge light to say that it wasn't charging. Now, one of the issues which I have mentioned in previous episodes is the supercharged MR2 uses an external power regulator. That's a regulator, which basically regulates that to a 12 or 13.8 volt, 13.5 volts to charge the battery. Most modern, well, all modern cars pretty much have that regulator built into the alternator. The reason these don't is those regulators are very susceptible to heat. The alternator was right next to the exhaust manifold, so Toyota in their wisdom said, you know what, we're going to keep this separate, and hopefully we don't kill the regulators. Now, the problem with that is, when I got this car, inside the boot, there is the spot where the regulator should be, and it's just got a bunch of jumper wires in it. It doesn't actually have a regulator in it, and I think the alternator that was on there was a one with a regulator built in, but I'm pretty sure it was dead. Very confusing. So what I've done is I've got a stock supercharged alternator back on the car, and I've sourced this guy. This is a power voltage regulator. However, trying to get the voltage regulator, the factory one for this, is very hard. I struggled to find one. In fact, a lot of people say you just can't get them anymore. What you can get is this guy, which looks from the outside exactly the same. Let's pull it out. I'll bring it over to the camera. So this looks exactly the same as the stock Toyota one. It has the same plug, the same everything. However, the pinout is slightly different. Luckily, all this is labeled, and I did find a post on one of the old MR2 forums that shows you how to repin the plug in the boot of the car to make it work with this. And this one is from a Honda Accord, I believe, like an old school one, one of the old pop-up headlight Accords. So that's what it's from, and it came all the way from the United States. And I think this cost me $65 delivered. Now, I did find one of the MR2 dudes who wrecks cars in America. He goes, yeah, I've got a second-hand voltage regulator for a supercharged one. I'll send it over to you. $230 American shipped. It's more than you pay for an MR2 over here. So I'm like, yeah, nah, champ, I'm good, bro. So I'm going to go with this. So today, what we are going to do is we are going to find the wiring diagram. We're going to pull that wiring out the boot, and we're going to repin it. I am going to document how the wiring was, so if anybody ever wants to convert it back, they can in the future, but I am going to document this part number. We'll leave some notes in the glove box for me for future reference or any other future owners. This is now the voltage regulator in this car. So hopefully with this on, we'll get a charge on the battery. The car died when I started, and I think it's probably just not enough power. The battery in this is tiny. I think not enough power to the ECU, not enough power to run everything. And when I gave it a rev, it's just too much, and it just went bleh, and died. So I'm hoping that's the problem. Let's get this in the car. Speaking of the boot, you will notice this boot doesn't have the stock spoiler, which is schmick on MR2s. I reckon they look unreal. It does have all these holes because it did have like a big ricer wang on there. And you can see the bloody damage it did with that thing bolted in there. They didn't seal it, it's rusted through, and that actually went through and rusted a bit of the boot. Hooray! Hooray for ghetto mods. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to rebuild all this. That's not too bad. I'm going to weld up these holes, we're going to paint the whole boot, and then I got this. All the way from merry old England. I asked them for a white one. They obviously didn't have one, but I'm pretty stoked. It's in mint condition. The only thing I'm missing is just the little rubber piece that goes here, but I'm just going to 3D print one out of maybe TPU or something. But that, we'll just close the boot again, is going to look so much better because I think these cars look very naked without a spoiler. So very stoked on that. This, delivered all the way from England, cost me $200. Spoiler and shipping, and I got it, and I'm not joking here, in 6 days. From England to Australia, mint for $200. I am stoked with that service. So yeah, shout out to you guys. I think called the Mark 1 breakers or something. I'll find their details later on. Cool, so in the boot, if you don't have any lining or anything, which I don't at the moment, here is the main ECU. We've got a couple of little relays, stuff like that. However, what we're interested in here is this plug here. So this is the plug meant for the voltage regulator. You can see somebody, not the previous owner, but somebody well before him, had done this old jumpy jobby so he could run a standard alternator in the car with the voltage regulator built in. But you can see the plug, if we get nice and close, you can see the plug there is the same as our new one, I believe. Hopefully, it's supposed to be anyway. Yeah, it looks like that fits over the top. Male, female. All good, baby. It's gravy, baby. All right, bless old forums. I've got the forum post up here that tells me which pins to swap. So hopefully it's accurate, but there is a lot of replies going, mate, you saved me, yada yada. So it did have pictures, but because it's an old forum, the forum links the picture links have died. Anyway, I've got that up there. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this. But on the instructions, you got all the letters here around this connector. So it says we need to swap P and IG. So that is that one and that one. And S and F. So that's S there. Whoa. Focus, S is there, and F is there. So it's the two end ones. We just have to swap those two. So obviously we can't swap them in here, so we swap them in our wiring loom. So we'll pull out those connectors and we'll try and pop out these wires, and we just need to switch those 4 wires around, and that means this bad boy should work. Let's give it a crack. Thank you for your lack of service. Okay, excuse the rain noise. I got the first 2 connectors out. Man, I thought they were like spade terminals like this, where it's got the little tab, and went to put the keys in, but it's like got this one-way lock that fits over the top, and man, it is a bitch to get out. I've tried everything. I end up having to use a small screwdriver and actually smash the tab off, which is gonna suck for putting it back together, but it's about the best I could do. I just couldn't get them out otherwise. So yeah, I gotta fix up that terminal now, get that back in. Anyway, we'll make it work. Okay, so I've swapped them all around. That was a bitch. These connectors are a pain in the ass. Anyway, I managed to save these 2, so they did snap back in. These 2 don't snap, but they will stay there, especially once I put a cable tie around all that. And I've just got this little weird earth wire thing, which did connect up to here. Don't know what the deal is with that, but I feel like it should be there, so I'm going to go get the soldering iron and we'll just solder that back on. Okay, much fighting later, that seems to be all connected. So, let's tape all that off. Find some pictures, find out where the hell that bolts to. Okay, so it's cranking, but it's either missing spark or fuel. All right, so I've got my little jumper connector in the diagnostics port, which means it'll hotwire the fuel pump. So if I turn the ignition on, it'll fire up the pump. So I'm just gonna pop my return line off again, turn the ignition on and see if the pump's actually working. I hope so, because it's a brand new frickin' pump. And these tanks are a nightmare to get out. Oh no. Okay, before I get too panicky, let's check fuses. Aha. Blown EFI fuse. All right. Not too sure why that's blown. We'll have to keep an eye on that, but for now, stick another fuse in it, see if we can start this puppy. Okay, it's the next morning and I went out and I've got some fuses, so we need a little 15 ampere for that. Now, the thing is with blown fuses, there's a reason fuses blow. It's very rare they just blow for no reason. So I got on the old Google last night and there's quite a bit of information about these 15 amp fuses blowing on Toyotas. So the fueling system, this fuse basically is the fuse for the fuel injectors, for the throttle position sensor, fuel pump, all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of things that can trigger, and there's people finding that a faulty throttle position sensor and stuff like that can also cause this. So if we're blowing this again, I'm gonna have to start looking at why it's blowing. So I have to go through the loom for the injectors and all that sort of stuff, make sure the loom's not arcing on anything. And then if it's still blowing, then maybe we've got to look at sensors and things like that. It's a pain in the ass. Hopefully, if you like the throttle position sensor and stuff, might be the same as the other 4AGE I've got from the other car. If so, that's great. I can swap that over and we can at least eliminate that. Anyway, let's pop this in. I had the battery on charge last night because, you know, fresh battery always helps. So we'll pop this fuse in and we'll just try and start it with a fresh fuse and see what happens. I found the fuse box lid with the label that's barely alive. Now I've got the jumper still in there. We're gonna just turn the ignition on and try and crank it and see if we get any fuel out of this fuel pump. Oh, yep. Well, I just cleaned the back window. Okay, well, fuel pump is now alive, so that was the reason for that. Let's take that jumper lead out. All right, beautiful. Let's go. Still saying it's not charging. What the hell? Let me get my multimeter. Nope. How frustrating. Still no charge from the alternator. Okay, so it's been about an hour and a half since I last filmed. Got the manual out, checking over all the stuff with the alternator. I have no real way of knowing if that new voltage reg works or not. I'm pretty sure it does. Everyone says it works. So that alternator could be dead. When I got this car, I had no alternator in it. It just had these two alternators in a box. One was some aftermarket thing, which I think has a voltage reg in it. And that would explain why those things were jumped. So they were running that, and then obviously the heat has killed the voltage regulator in that. And it did have a genuine 4AG ZE one in there, which I put back in the car. However, I'm guessing that was probably the original one out the car that has died. So it's such an unfun job, and I need to get back under the car. You got to take the air conditioning pump out, drop that away, you got to loosen off the belt, and then you got to get the alternator out. But it's like a tiny little gap to get up into there. Probably okay if you're on a hoist, but when you're working on ramps in the garage, not so good. Okay, 15 minutes later, and this puppy's out. So I think now, strip this thing down. Looks pretty basic. Just a few 8 mils. Take the casing apart, I think. I don't know, I'll follow the instructions and see. Oh wow. Okay, so pulling that alternator apart, it is pretty chatting there. Like, it's got oil and it's got some melted plastic in there, and I'm pretty confident it's cactus. I'd say that's why it was in the box and not on the car in the first place. So I either need to get this rebuilt or I need to find another one. So I'm going to hit up that company in England and see if they've got one, although not many supercharged cars made it over to the UK, so I don't like my chances with that. Otherwise, I'm going to take it to an alternator shop, see if they can rebuild it for me. Either way, I don't think it's going to be that cheap, but I'm pretty confident that's the problem. So some people on the forum say, yeah, just stick another one in there with a regulator built in and do the jumper wires. But then you speak to a lot of other people and go, there's a reason it wasn't in there, because the regulator just gets cooked by the exhaust manifold and they die after a few months. So Okay, this video is obviously going to take a bit longer before we drive the car. I mean, I could drive it on battery power, but I'd really like to get this sorted first. And now it's out the car, I now don't have the belts running around, and there's the aircon's laying on the ground and all that sort of stuff. So I'll get back to you. Leave it with me. We'll continue this video now. Alrighty, so while the alternator's being sent off to go and be fixed, I'm going to do a couple other little things I want to get sorted on this car. Let me show you. Alright, so I had a few hours the other day and I pulled apart all the fan shroud for the radiator and all the brackets for the radiator as well, because they all were rusty and gross. I pulled the fans out, I'm cleaning up the motors. I primed them, painted them, they all look nice. I've still got to do the radiator. You can see the radiator in there is looking a bit manky, but there's water in the car at the moment. So once I clean the water out, I'll pull that out and we'll sort that. So one little job done that is nice. However, one of the issues I have with this car, if we go into our dark garage, let's turn some lights on. Ghetto wiring in this garage. Now, this is our headlight switch for the car. Now, a common problem with these is this switch gets faulty. Now, I've had this out before and it didn't fix it. So I've spoken to some people and I think I've got a solution. Now, if we have a look, if I pull the flash, the high beam flash, the headlights do come up. So that's good, that works. However, now it kind of works since I pulled it apart, but if we turn that to on, oh, the green's now on. Okay, so it wasn't doing this before. Literally no lights would come on the dash when I did this. Now the problem is, I've got that as headlights on now and the headlights aren't coming up. So they should be up now. That's just Parker's. So at least we're getting the lights on the dash, but if you wiggle the switch around, it doesn't even really work. Oh, the headlights just came up. Okay, so it's very intermittent. The switch is a bit dicky. Okay, so yeah, it's not working properly. Also, the headlights aren't turning on, but I found out the reason for that. Because that switch was dicky, the old owner had actually pulled the relay out of the fuse box. Sorry, it's very bright here, but there you can see there's a relay missing. So what he did is he was actually jumping the headlights with a paper clip, jumping the relay to force the headlights on so we could drive at night because the switch wasn't working properly. Not ideal. I do want this to be working. Number one, because they're pop-ups and they're cool. Number two, I need it for roadworthy. So let's pull this switch out and see if we can actually fix it. The switch literally just pulls off, so that's easy. And then it's just got a big nut in here, which hopefully I have not done up tight. No, I have not. To get it out. And then it's just a big connector at the back. Okay, so word on the street is that even though when you pull these apart, they look fine, the solder has micro cracks. You can't even see the cracks in them, and that's what's causing the problems. Sounds odd, but you know, the gurus seem to know what they're talking about, so I reckon it's as simple as just reflowing the solder so all the micro cracks fill in and then there's no issue. So sure, let's do that, shall we? Okay, so we've got our little PCB there, and these are our connectors. So these shouldn't be a problem, because literally they are just that. They're just little copper terminals. They don't have any solder or anything on them, so that should be fine. This side, so we've got 4 little bits of solder there, and then the solder from the pins to the board.
Okay, I've reflowed all of them and I put some solder, new solder on the bigger ones. So let's put this back together and let's try it in the car. All right, let's see what happens now. Oh, hang on. We need a relay for the headlights. Let's go find a relay. Up there, that box that has the whole wiring loom for the other MR2. Let's steal a relay out of that. Oh, that weighs a ton. Come on. There we go. I'm pretty sure that is the same headlight relay I need. Get out. Oh no, it's different. That's that one. Okay. Oh great, the headlight relay is missing out of this one too. I wonder if that one's the same. Let's put that back in. Okay, so the starter relay doesn't fit either. It's like its own thing. So I don't think it's an overly out of control relay. Like it's not gonna be a hard thing to find. I'll just find the part number and order one. But we'll see if the switch works. Okay, so even though I don't have the headlight relay, if this is gonna work, we should see the dash lights come on. That's a good start. Okay, next one, we should see the headlights go up and the green lights stay on. Haha, headlights up, green lights still on. So if I had a headlight relay, that should now work. No, wait, success. I found the relay for the headlight. It was in one of the box of random parts. And also I was looking at the wrong part of the, come on camera, wrong part of this relay fuse box. So here you can see top right there, headlight. And that is that one on the very end. So if we stick this in now. All right. Oh man, if we have headlights, I'll be pretty stoked. Let's have a look. Ha! Yes! Oh, the dimmest 80s headlights in the world, but we have headlights. That is freaking awesome. All right, let's try the high beams. So, guessing it's the same as, there we go. Same as a lot of Japanese cars. Oh yeah, they look marginally brighter, but how good's that? Working headlights. And we've got our high beam indicator on the dashboard there. Oh, so good. Now, turn the headlights on, push it in and move it to there. The headlights should stay up, but they're off. Oh, how perfect. Ha, stoked. Wicked. We've actually fixed something else on this car, which is great. We can tick that off the list. Actually, let's go do it now. Welcome to our very long list. All right. Treat door handles, indicator, headlight switch. Done. Still lots to do, but we're getting there. I'm looking forward to this. Roadie, Rego, go have fun. Ooh, paint thermofans. I can cross that off the list too. God, this pen sucks. So I've decided while I'm waiting for the alternator, I'm going to take off this front bar and deal with this rust. I just put the impact gun on. I got this bolt out. And look at all the rust that's just fallen out. Ay, this is going to be an adventure. Okay, so I'm 90% sure you've got these bolts that hold the plastic part on. I need to take the plastic part off because there's bolts that go through this way underneath the plastic that hold the front crash bar on. And these are just cactus. Like, there's no way they won't undo. I've tried. So I'm gonna have to cut them all off and then remake that strip. So that's fun.
Everything seems hazy. Is there some place for safety I could go? Run away, run away, run away to your escape.
So yeah, that is pretty stuffed. Now the good news is I do have another one of those crash bars. I don't know if it's much better than that. I think it is. So hopefully I can use the other crash bar, which I've already kind of treated and painted, I think. If not, I'll do it. So we can put that in here. Otherwise I'm gonna have to cut out all this rust and re-weld plates in, and it's just time consuming. I don't really want to do it. Check this out. Yeah, that is just 90% rust now. Oh, let me find this other crash bar. Okay, I found the other one. It's it was hidden right up the back. It's still shit, but it's a lot less shit than that one. Let's see here, it's got quite a bit of rust along this section and this section, but the rest of it's actually, like the front's nowhere near as bad, it's a bit at the top. So I think I'm gonna have to just cut that out, plate over it with, 2 or 3 mil plate, whatever, and make it stronger, doesn't matter. Unfortunately, that wasn't work I wanted to be doing, but we're gonna have to. So here's something fun. On the front bar, there's these big brackets for what I think were fog lights, because if you have a look over here on the car, there's these wires here, both sides for fog lights. And inside the car, there's actually a fog light switch. And it's pretty dark, but I'm pretty sure it's a 3-stage switch. So it's off, middle, on. I think this may have had those really fancy fog lights with the covers on them that are now worth like stupid money. Yeah, so that's kind of a cool thing. If only I still had the fog lights, because those fog lights are worth a fortune and they're very cool. Oh well.
Okay, gang, so the alternator is going to take a while to come back. So I think for now, we're going to leave the video where it is. We got some stuff done. We figured out why the car died, blown the fuse. Why it's blown the fuse, we're still on the fence about. We're going to see when we drive it and see if anything's wrong with it. Have to try and track that down, but at least the car now starts and we know why it stopped. We've also figured out that the alternator is buggered and hopefully our voltage reg works. We've got the front bar off, ready to be fixed up and put back together and then repaint everything. And we've got our headlights working, which is really cool because pop-up headlights are one of the coolest things about this car. So we're going to leave it there. In the next episode, I'm hoping we're going to get the alternator back in this thing and I'm going to take it for a drive. So check back in. We'll see you then.